Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
From Super Soul Farm. It's a snowy Monday. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the snow. We're plowing driveways here and shoveling the walk. How is it in Pittsburgh? Did you get any snow?
No snow.
We got hit with a winter wonderland.
Good for you. It
brings up all the songs that are stored in my subconscious.
That's why you're drinking so much eggnog over there. It's like getting real over there now.
It's getting serious. It's like serious. It's like a lot of extra work. I was like, okay, puja, chanting japa. Nope. Put on layers of clothing. Start to brush off all the cars. Get the tractor going. Make sure it's got diesel gas in it. That was my morning. Kids are delayed. School's delayed. One of the schools is not delayed. I'm frustrated.
Okay.
I've had a frustrated morning, and I thought to myself, because I feel like I have to take a shower before I do the podcast. That's
important.
It's important. And I just felt like, you know what? I got mad at everybody on Zoom. Forgive me, guys. It just shows how when you don't want to take responsibility, you blame anybody. Eileen shoveling. It's not her fault. Kylie Brown and Brian. It's not their fault. Tanya Sansini. It's not her fault. But sure enough, I was like, Tanya Sansini, who does she think she is? She can just not go to a podcast if she's not having a good day. Eileen shoveling. She doesn't have to go to the podcast. She can just say, I'm not doing the podcast, but I got to show up for the podcast. That's how I was feeling this morning in the shower. I was having a hard morning.
Okay. Then you drank a little eggnog and you felt better.
Yeah, I feel better. Then my chair broke.
Okay.
Then my chair broke. Ever have one of those mornings where it's like a series of problems happening?
Yeah. But we get through it, Raghunath.
Maybe I have to reframe it.
You reframe it. This is all a blessing.
It's all... and how you're still in Pittsburgh by your backdrop?
I come back this afternoon.
All right. Good for you. Hanging out with the family. You got some marriage advice? You're going to give your parents were married for 60 years. Yeah. Yes. So your parents were married for 60 years.
Yesterday was the celebration of my parents' 60th wedding anniversary.
You're catching up. How many years have you been married for?
21, 22, something like that.
Can you even make it?
I don't know if I'll be able to make it.
You got 40 more years
younger than I did.
Let's see.
I mean, I just have to live
56.
Longer.
You can't even make 60 yet, unless you go to your 90s.
Yeah, well, that's possible.
Well, there's a great chance we're not going to make it to our 90s.
Yeah.
It's probably a pretty good chance. My
mom. Do you want the wedding advice? Or not?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about our mortality? So, my father said 3 things. I forgot one of them. And I think I forgot the best one. But one was, you just really have to love each other. All right.
It's too simple.
Okay. But maybe...
I want a deeper one than that. That's just love each other.
Well, a more practical one. Then another one this is what he said, Raghunath. Now, Raghunath, I'm going to tell you this one. I don't know if you're going to like it. All right. Because if you're going to follow this, you're going to have to really make some serious adjustments. You're going to have to it's going to take a lot of effort for you.
Okay.
He said,
Never tell her the whole truth.
No, that's not what he said.
That's not the advice. Okay.
he said, never, he said, never tease, even like in a joking way. He said, because sometimes the other person may feel that there's a little truth in it and it may cause some, that's what he said.
Never tease. It's like all I do is tease.
Yes, I know. That's going to be really
all
hard.
I do is tease. That's a hard one.
So that was the second one. I forget.
As a matter of fact, that's part of like my even relationship with everybody.
Teasing.
I'm teasing. I have to like recreate my entire self to live by your father's guidelines.
So, I mean, maybe everyone doesn't have to follow them. Maybe there are people that have really healthy relationships where they tease each other all the time. Maybe it's.
I think Mara likes me because I tease.
Well,
is that true?
I like teasing.
Yeah. She sort of
likes it.
To a certain degree. I picked up something in that answer. It wasn't a full, wholehearted answer. It wasn't like, yeah, I love it when you tease me. It was like, yeah.
Well, sometimes when I tease, it's really funny.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
It's something. Sometimes it's not. It's annoying. That's a problem with teasing. It's never 100%.
Particularly when it's to an audience of 10,000 listeners.
Did I ever tease you really embarrassing way in front of?
Oh, I'm sure you have.
Yeah. We should keep notes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's
Right.
pretty good advice. Was that 3? Tease.
2. I
love.
forgot the third. Maybe it'll come to me. Let's see. Maybe it'll come during the show.
Okay. I'm going to ask my mom. I'm going to ask my mom what her
Wedding
method
advice?
was. She lived. My dad died, but they were married a long time.
Okay. I mean, there's never go to the cops. That was one.
My mom's got a lot of
Keep it in
great
the neighborhood.
one-liners.
Your neighborhood can take care of it.
The neighborhood can
one.
take care of it. Never jump rope eating a plum. That's a
And
that's
never
a
dive
class.
into
That's a
unknown
classic.
waters.
Never swim in unknown waters. Yeah,
I thought it was dive into unknown waters.
I think it was just swim. Careful where you swim. That's what it was. Careful where you swim.
Careful where you swim. Okay, I think let's get into the announcement part of the show. Now we've gleaned wisdom from our elders. Let's move
That's
on.
all they have to offer us. A few one-liners.
Mara G, are there any announcements today?
Yeah. We have back to recovery group meeting at 1:00 today. Tomorrow evening for our Patreon members, Rurago is doing Sweet Baby Krishna at 7 p.m. Sage group signups are still open if people are interested in signing up for Sage group.
But they're filling up.
Filling up quickly. And then if you want anything from Happy Girl Kitchen, they're offering a Wisdom of the Sages jelly box, and they have other delicious goodies. And there's a coupon code Wisdom for 10% off.
It's our Wisdom of the Sages jelly box. Give the gift of jelly this year.
Okay.
We were saying yesterday, because we were saying, don't just give someone a Bhagavad Gita. They're going to think you're crazy. Give them a Bhagavad Gita and a box of jelly.
That works. That's a good formula. Happy.
Two
you're not
great
happy
things that
girl
go great
for
together.
For no reason, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Truthfully, I don't even like jelly without a Bhagavad Gita.
And vice versa.
It's so funny. Actually, we give away Bhagavad Gitas with jelly. You got to give the people, however they will palate, spiritual truth. You got to sweeten it up a little.
Yeah.
All right. You want to hear a nugget for today?
I do.
Who's
it from?
Monday morning nugget.
Yeah.
Oh, this is from a very wise man named Georg C. Lichtenberg.
Georg C.
Georg C. Lichtenberg. One's first step in wisdom is to question everything. And one's last is to come to terms with everything. You like this?
I do like it, Raghunath. Read it again.
I especially like it in this. I think a lot of this is not a faith-based practice. This is an experience-based. It's an experience-based practice.
Okay, but definitely as faith is a part of it, though, isn't it?
It is. There's some initial faith, but it's not blind faith. It's reasonable faith. For example, I've heard you give a class at the Yoga Factory. I was dragged there by a friend. I had some faith in my friend because they said they really liked you. So I went. So that was my first faith. It was reasonable faith. A good friend of mine said, oh, you're going to like this guy Kostuba. So I went with my good friend, who I have reasonable faith in. They're not insane. They generally make some good choices. They seem a little spiritual. Then I heard you speak, and you spoke about very truthful things.
How about, then I heard you speak, and you said we're living in a virtual reality.
Hey, that's reasonable. Well, and you explain things in a reasonable way, and that sort of bolsters the faith I had in my friend. Yeah, my friend made another good choice, and I like that. And then I take a step forward. Now the speaker recommended something, so I took a little step forward, and then I felt this. I had this experience. So everything is sort of based in our practice on experience. And part of experience is we question what we do. Hey, that doesn't make sense. There's always time for questions in a class on Sanatana Dharma, in a class on the Bhagavad Gita. There's always time for questions. Note
that one down right now. There's always times for questions in a talk on Sanatana Dharma.
Yeah. So, and we want to move forward. We don't want people just to believe. That's too crazy. You're that's like having a tree with no roots. When your faith gets challenged, it'll shake. Just believe, just believe. If someone says, yeah, I believe all, if I do a podcast one day and then, Linda says, I believe all this stuff. God's a blue cowherd boy. He can also manifest into a noble king of Ayodhya. He can also manifest into a lion man. And you got to chant his holy name 16,000. If you were to tell me all these things in one day and then you believed it, I think you're a little crazy. We don't interested in that.
Maybe they just were picking up from where they left off last life. What about that?
I still think they were crazy, but they might be pure. You meet people like that too. They're like, I completely get it all. I'm in. And, but I, as like maybe the teacher, I would say like, do they get, Mara actually was sort of like that. You like come to class before this was Wisdom of the Sages. It's not a teasing.
I believe it.
It's a truth. She was coming to class every day, and then every
morning. Were you
morning.
Worried about her?
I was a little worried because she never questioned anything. I was like, "Do you believe all this stuff?" She's like, "Yep."
I think it's from the last life.
I don't. And let me ask you a question, Mara. You're ruining my whole hypothesis that people have experience, they have faith, but you never did a lot of questioning. You were just showing up. Was that because you liked me? You thought I was cool? You had faith in me? Did you see that? I said you thought I was cool. She made a squint up,
Nope, wasn't that.
Why did you not question, Mara? Why did you not? Why did you accept everything?
I didn't fully accept it. I was just sort of processing it. But I felt like I thought that you very delicately spoon-fed me bhakti in very baby doses.
Baby doses.
Yeah.
Baby doses.
Okay.
Give her baby doses.
So, I there's nothing wrong with feeling inspiration and enthusiasm for this new stuff that you're hearing, right? Especially
sure.
It's kind of ringing true to you and all that. But, Raghunath, I was thinking about this, and I'll go back to it again. It says one's first step in wisdom is to question everything.
Sure.
And one's last is to come to terms with everything. I think that's an important part of this too. But let's talk about the questioning, because our practice, this practice of bhakti, this practice of Vaishnavism, Krishna bhakti, all that's taught in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, all these texts, they speak about faith a lot. And they also speak about these texts call upon us to enshrine certain things, certain teachings, certain principles, certain people in our heart, to hold them very sacred.
Yeah.
And there's something about that that's very important and very beautiful, but also something about that that's a little dangerous, to be quite honest,
Sure.
There's something about that that's dangerous in the sense that you may begin to let go of your independent thinking.
Your discernment.
Yeah, your discernment, your critical thought. Critical here meaning in a positive way, like critical thought, like here's where I really want to go with this, Raghunath.
Sure.
Is that somehow we have to strike a balance between holding certain things sacred in our heart, certain people sacred in our heart, and not giving up our critical thinking. somehow we have to strike about, and I think it's essential because we come to this spiritual path and we enshrine certain things in our heart, but what we're enshrining, for this to really work and really ignite, it has to be of true substance. It can't be a facade. It's got to be real, right?
Mm.
And we're in a society of people that are practicing this. We're not. It's not like we're. You and I have spoken in the past about how when we first came to this, it was like you hit a certain point where you get past your initial doubts and you start to cruise, and you're like, whoa, this person's like super mind-blowing spiritual person. This person is too. This person is too. It's like everybody you're meeting now, you think like, whoa, these people are blowing my mind, and you begin to put them on a pedestal in your mind or in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And in one sense, that's a good thing. But as some time passes, you may begin to see them in a different light. You may begin to see the warts that come with that. You might begin to see that they have this is a multifaceted person that I'm dealing with. Or
I find you to be wartless, sir.
you know my warts, Bubba. You know my warts.
You're wartless. I've
Yeah,
examined
warts.
every part of you.
No, you haven't. And even without it, you've seen my words. But I'll say this though, Raghunath.
Picture out of my mind.
But I think it's natural and healthy that as you go through years of spiritual practice, and you and I have been going through decades of it now, right? We're coming up on
decades
the fourth
in
decade.
this.
Yeah, we're coming up on the fourth decade. That one goes through stages or phases where you begin to question the things that you've dedicated your mind and your heart to, and your time and your energy and your years to. You have to question them, and I think you question them for the purpose of boiling down everything that you've placed your faith into, boiling it down so that everything that's artificial, boils out, and what you have left is of real substance. And for instance, you may even do that with people, right? Like here's a
Definitely
person
with people. Definitely with people.
And
people, the philosophy, the lifestyle, the diet, the practice, the meditations, the chanting, the kirtan. I've done it with all these things. I've like lifted them high and then destroyed them all. No. And then like, and then brought it back up again. I mean, I've been through these phases, Kostub. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm going to cut you off here.
Go. Yeah, no.
I've been through these phases where like, I love devotees, new devotees. I love devotees. I only want to be around devotees. And then you get to this point, I'll never work with devotees again. I'll never work with devotees again. They are too spaced out, these devotees. And then I went through that. I was like, I'm only working with devotees. Then you realize like everyone's actually sort of spaced out, and I'm only working with devotees. That's where I'm right now. I only want devotees in my life, spiritual. But I've done that with everything. I've done that with every facet of this culture. Is like throw it out and then bring it back, take a step back, reanalyze it. What if, and then you ever do this one? Like, what if this whole thing's an illusion? Like everything. What if it's all an illusion? Wearing a robe, putting on tila. Maybe that's the illusion too. And I'm like, it's a pretty good illusion. It's a pretty good illusion. Yeah. Ever do that one? It's a good illusion. I like this illusion. You gotta do one illusion. Why not this illusion?
I'll be honest, I don't really swing that far.
Oh, I swing, man. I swing like a chimp. Baby. I swing.
Swing like a maddened chimp. Got you drinking up that eggnog, man. You're swinging it back and forth.
I think according to our mind and how our mind is trained, let it swing away, swing low, sweet chariot. Just keep swinging. As long as you swing back and forth.
Well, let me tell you something, Raghunath, and I think this is important too. Like, say you swing. You see, we spoke about something yesterday when we were speaking about the sage groups, right? I really, we did the show where we were hearing about people from sage groups, and then after the show, we had a meeting with over 100 people where we were digging into 100 people who were sage group members or leaders, and asking them penetrating questions to get feedback of how we might develop further.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
And so it was great because certain things kept rising to the top, and that's how you get some really good information, and it seemed to me like one of the most important aspects, the reasons why these sage groups are really transformational. We said, right, small groups are the unit for transformation. Is that you can be really honest in that small group, right?
Right.
You can be really honest. Now, that's not always easy to do, and sometimes, for instance, if you were to question something, question someone, because you're in a group, because you're in a society of people that have made these things sacred in their heart, you're going to question Srila Prabhupada, you're going to question the Bhagavad Gita, you're going to question so and so Swami, you're going to,
And they're like
that.
sacred cows. You can't
These are
question it.
sacred
You got to
cows,
just
yeah.
accept it. Yeah.
And even if you try to do it in a respectful way, because you're starting to play in someone's sensitive area, right? They feel their whole spiritual life is resting on their
Right.
faith in this teaching or this person or figure or whatever, then you may get a type of response that discourages your independent thought, right?
Sure.
Hey, you're the problem for, if you're questioning something, the question isn't who you should be questioning is yourself for even asking that question. You can get that kind of response, and that doesn't help, like so there has to be a way to question these things, question these ideas, question even these people or these teachings. It's a healthy thing if you do it in such a way respectfully. Then you boil aside, away the facade, and what you're left with, then you can place your faith in that even stronger, right? Like, because you've examined it more deeply. So maybe you had a person way up on this pedestal, and you just took them a little bit down to this pedestal. Like, I thought they were like, a
Right.
total
I thought they
pure
were gold, they were
saint walking.
bronze,
Yeah, they didn't touch
but
the
they're
ground.
still metal.
Yeah, but exactly, and that's where this George Lichtenberg said,
Right. That's the
one's
part two of
first,
the quote.
yeah, one's first step is to question everything, and one's last is to come to terms with everything. Sometimes I see people questioning these things, and they're unable to come to terms, and it makes me think that they didn't have a healthy questioning going into it, or they didn't go through phases of questioning it well as they progressed. So the things that they held so sacred, when they saw any wart, it was like their whole world burned down, and then they came back with anger, they came back with cruelty, cynicism.
You want to hear something crazy? I've even done this with prasad. Prasad is, if you don't know, sacred food.
Okay.
And I remember I was like, when I was a new devotee, and I came into bhakti, really into health food and like macrobiotic and number 7 diets and like, seaweed and whatever it was, and Wigmore, whatever it was. And I finally, it's just sort of like, I wanted to do anything except surrender to God. I wanted to do anything my way. So I was looking for thousands. It was testing and pushing at every little point on to try to see if the house would crumble. And Satyaraj gave me a good answer. I was like, I don't even think this is the healthiest diet. If this is the absolute truth, we should have the absolute healthiest diet. His answer was great. It was like, it's pretty healthy. And I was like, that is pretty healthy. It is a pretty healthy diet. He goes, no, there's probably healthier things, but it's pretty healthy.
Depends how you go with it, right?
And it depends how you go with it, because if in one sense, if you want to push on that point, it can be very healthy.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly healthy. And it can also, because in life, there's times to have festive eating, and there's times to have very healthy eating. It's actually very healthy.
Psychologically, that's healthy,
Psychologically, it's more healthy than the people. I've met people who are like rigid with their diet, and their personality is rigid. I really like what we have to offer.
Okay.
I've examined it in every way.
Well, that's what you're saying, Raghunath, is exactly my point. Because you question it, and you boil down any facade, right? And then you look at what's real, and then you place your faith again. Now your faith is actually situated on something so much more stable.
I like to make it a point that I never speak to somebody about bhakti higher than my realization. Sometimes people like to
I
get
got you. Yeah.
you get.
In other words, you never speak, you never pontificate on something that's beyond your realization.
Yeah, some people talk to me about, tell me about the gopis' love for Krishna. Tell me about the higher esoteric ideas of bhakti. I was like, are you kidding me? You
I'm not your
think
guy
even
for
if I
that.
read a book about it, do you think I'll even believe that or understand it? And what to speak of devotees who fight over esoteric topics. It's like they've missed the point. My point, the idea is like, if you speak above your realizations, then when someone challenges you, you don't have any ground to stand on anymore. So and I've said this before, I like to write down, what do I know? Like from this culture, what do I really know? And otherwise, what happens is when someone trips you up and challenges you, you can like say, yeah, it's all crazy. What was I thinking? It's all crazy. It's not all crazy. It's actually very solid. And I can just share some of my building blocks. Calming the mind is good. Controlling the senses is important. Finding a community of like-minded people that want to go higher is a good thing. Keeping your body and your mind healthy is important to your peace and happiness. Mantra meditation affects my mind. It's a good thing. My mind tends to be all over the place. It's good to see your food as given to you by God and should be offered back to God. It's good to be mindful when I eat. It's good not to find fault in other people and criticize other people. It's good not to hold on to resentment. See, these are all my foundation of the house.
Right.
So even if you tell me something esoteric about Krishna that's debatable or this or that, I don't know. Do I know God as a blue cowherd boy? No. Been around this for almost 4 decades now. I don't know God as a blue cowherd boy. How can I possibly understand that? Could he be? Yeah, I could accept he could be. Great sages have said he is. Great acharyas say he is.
There's been enough for you to place your faith there, though, right? To embrace it and to go with it, because of all that you've experimented with, and through experimentation, you've developed strong faith
and to see other people who do believe that. Yeah. And are still pushing forward. And I find these people to be stellar in their behavior and their activities and their thoughts. And I think it's good to have people that you can look up to and say, you know what, they're doing good. I want to be like that. I think we have that in different facets of our life anyway. If you're into cars and you have a friend that's a really good mechanic, you look up to him. I want to pick his brain. If you know a guy's into motorcycles, oh man, tell me about road trips on a motorcycle or bicycling. So we have people like that in our way. We need people like that in our spiritual life. And that's what a community is. And we learn from each other. We learn from people who are elders than us or just walk this path longer. And I think I personally need that in my life so I can sort of push and test it as I move forward and as I add new things to my life. And discernment doesn't have to be given up. I find at any phase in at least for me, I still have it. I still have it. And I'm very, very open to if people have a better idea for me. I'm very open to that. And I say that with all honesty. You got something higher than pure love of God? I'm open to that. You got something higher than see God in every living being? I'm open to that. What do you got for me?
What do you got?
Okay. You got something higher than worshiping a Radha Krishna deity? I'm open. and dressing a stone and worshiping it every day? I'm open to that. What's higher than that? A stone?
What do you got?
A stone from a sacred mountain that God lifted over his head? What's higher than that?
Now, Raghunath, I think this can, and this is for a lot of people, this would be like touchy ground to venture into, but like even the Shastra, right? Even these ancient teachings, which the foundation of how our lineage is practiced is faith in these sacred texts, right? The faith that these are not ordinary texts.
Right. They're not ordinary. They're not
truths being handed down.
Right. They're not written by man, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the word? Apurusheya?
Yeah, Apurusheya. Yeah.
Apurusheya.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it?
They're not of any material. They're not of any material origin. They're of spiritual origin. Yeah. So like for instance, here's a verse, and I'll share an embarrassing story, right? But it'll illustrate.
I love when Kostuba shares embarrassing stories.
Here's a story.
Does it have to do with a wart?
It's a big wart, yeah. But like you come to Bhakti, you're taking in these teachings, and here's a verse, right? Famous verse, often quoted verse from Bhagavatam.
Tell me.
This is 5th canto, 18th chapter, text 12.
Yes, canto, 18th chapter, text 12.
Yasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarver gunais tatra samasate suraha. You know the subject matter, Raghunath?
I do this. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana samasti
Sarver
sarver
gunais
samas.
tatra samasate suraha.
I can't remember what it is. I used to know this one.
Yasyasti bhakti of the people who are engaged in bhakti to Bhagavati, to the Supreme Lord,
Yeah.
akinchana, without any motive, sarvai, all of gunai, good qualities, sarvai gunais tatra, they're there in that person, a samasate, they reside in that person, of suraha, the demigods. One who is, serving, engaging in bhakti with devotion to God, all the good qualities of the devas reside in that person.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next part of the verse, Harav Bhaktasya Kuto Mahadguna Manoratenasati Dvavato Bahi. That but for those that don't, right, on the other hand, on the other hand, a person devoid of bhakti has no good qualities.
Well, that's always a tough verse because you're like, wait, I know this. My postman is a really good guy. Something like that. How can you say that? He's not a devotee, but he's a good guy. That I think that's a level in person's devotional service when they hear this verse and they're like, wait a second. I know one devotee who robbed a bank.
And I know somebody, and I know a non-devotee who's like,
a non-devotee who's like an incredible altruist.
Save a child. Yeah, whatever.
Right.
And so, now there's a logic to this, and one can go very deep into this, but like, for instance, let's hold on the explanation for now and say that I'm embracing this idea as a new practicing monk, right?
Yeah.
And one day I was in the temple in Boston, and like some college student came over and wanted to interview a devotee, and somehow it was me.
Okay.
And so they asked me a question, and the question was something like, are there any people that aren't devotees that you admire?
And you're like, no.
I'm like, no.
You must have gave some politically correct answer. You're like,
come on, and I'm like, well, and I forget how I rationalized it and justified it, but they were absolutely flabbergasted. They were like, I cannot believe you. I cannot believe you would say such a thing. And at the time, I was convinced, like, I'm dead right on it. Look at you, right? We lost him now.
That's so crazy that you would say that, but that's how you feel.
I know, but hey, it says it right there in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So, right. And so, so here's the question, through this verse, the Bhagavatam is kind of presenting a rhetorical question. It's really saying, like, where can you find good qualities in they're implying that they're not there. And so how do we, we have to question this, right? Because just as you're saying, like, I know people that, practice bhakti yoga, and they appear like they're full of bad qualities, and they're really lacking in good qualities, right? You and I have witnessed this.
You could just have to look at me. Are you talking about?
and vice versa, right? There's so many people, historic figures, and or even common people that we know that appear that they know nothing of bhakti, but
okay, you're opening up a whole new can of worm here on a squirrel.
This is not a squirrel. This is our subject.
Okay. This all right.
And so here's the question: to be fixed in truth, to be fixed in reality, to be following properly within this lineage, must you take that verse as a principle that governs all of our reasoning and all of our interpretation and all of our expression of what is moral and what is not?
Yeah. What's your answer to that?
Well, here's the question. Or can it be understood as like one principle among many principles that serves a particular purpose in interpreting morality, right? Like, because you can take this verse and then you can take other verses and that seem to be saying something else. So how do we understand the two? Then we come across with the idea that, like, hey, maybe this verse is saying, think about. And of course, there's many ways you could interpret or imply the verse, and different teachers will do that. Different acharyas, different great teachers will do it. Take one verse and explain it in different ways.
I really want to know how you got out of this with the interviewers.
I didn't get out of it.
I'm-
They walked away. They walked away upset.
When
And I was just
interviews
like,
go
well,
sour.
hey, that's the way it goes. I'm not going to sit here and
It's the
cater to
it's
your
the
sentimentality.
altruism of a dream. That's basically what it is. Yeah, you can be altruistic in a dream.
Well, yeah, or like this. How about like this? In other words, you put a ladder up against the wrong wall. Does that ladder have any value? Well, in one sense, it doesn't, right? It's not going to get you where you need to go.
Okay, I get it.
So that's
It's-
that's one way you could
yes.
understand this, right? Like all of your good qualities, in one sense, they're misplaced, and so from one perspective, your good qualities are wonderful, beautiful, fantastic,
Yeah.
admirable. I wish I was even more like you.
Right.
And from another perspective, a very zoomed out perspective, it's incredibly insignificant and misplaced. And whatever gain comes through them is washed away in a blip of time and gone forever.
Our good quality, just to seal this up for people who have
Yeah.
now fully lost faith in everything we're talking about and the Bhagavatam. What we're about to say is all the good qualities, ethics, morality, etc., is perfected, is wonderful if it's used to escape the dream. Generally, raising our consciousness and our thought patterns to something that is sattvic, what we call ethics, morality, being honest, truthful, a good person. That is perfectly used when it helps you escape the dream. And generally, it can help you escape the dream if applied to bhakti. Otherwise, you're just a good person within the pinball machine of the material gunas, bouncing you around from goodness to passion to ignorance, to goodness, passion to ignorance. So we want to get, it's like a pinball machine. You want to hit that ball, but you want it to get into the locked position. Ever play pinball? Lock it, and then all of a sudden, all the balls come down. That's what'll happen. You'll lock that ball, and everything will start to explode from there, and then you can escape samsara. But usually, it's material. It's those ideas of material being ethical, moral, etc., that are going to assist you to escape the illusion. We don't want to just be good for the sake of being good.
Okay, that's very helpful, Raghunath. Thank you.
Okay, well, I just wanted, because it started sounding like we are highly recommending not being good, but we are into good.
That's why I'm saying. So our point is we need to question these things, right? Because like that seems to it's some few weeks back I read a quote from who was it from? Oh, from Walt Whitman, where he said, like question everything and then find like anything that's insults like your heart or something like that, like discard it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And
Walt.
so I think that is a genuine principle that we need to do. Now the question is, will we be discarding things that are sacred, or will we be discarding things that are true? I think as we mature, no, that's not what we're doing. Now here's another verse, Raghunath, and this is a counter verse, right? This is something that we read early in this year. This is Sati, right? The daughter of Daksha, a great yogini, speaking truth to power, right? Speaking to her, I think this was her speaking here.
Speaking truth to power. I like that.
Yeah, it may have been one of, I'm pretty sure it's Sati, but in any case, it's being spoken to Daksha. And here's the verse. Twice born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul. And then this is what Srila Prabhupada writes in his commentary. He says, there are some highly qualified persons who accept only the good quality in others. Just as a bee is always interested in the honey and the flower and does not consider the thorns and colors, highly qualified persons who are uncommon accept only the good qualities of others, not considering their bad qualities, whereas the common man can judge what are good qualities and what are bad qualities. Among the uncommonly good souls, there are still gradations, and the best good soul is one who accepts an insignificant asset of a person and magnifies that good quality. So here it seems Prabhupada is very clearly saying that you can find good qualities in practically anyone. Right? It seems to be countering what the Bhagavatam is saying. So the point is, if I hear this verse and it's saying that if you're not a practicing bhakti, you have no good qualities, I may need to, if I don't have the maturity to question it, to boil it down, to try to understand what it really means, I might accept it and I might place my faith in it wholeheartedly because I've already done that with Bhagavatam, and I might misuse it. I might weaponize it. I might cause harm or pain with it, which is it's really meant to be doing the exact opposite.
Sure.
Right? Really meant to serve, to relieve pain. So if I were to be asked that question, I was going to say if I were to be asked that question now, 30 years later.
Oh, that was 30 years ago when you got asked that question?
Or more, yeah.
Okay.
Then does that relieve you a little bit?
It does relieve me. I thought it was like last week.
You're like, am I doing the show with this guy? But I think I would have a very different answer now, because hopefully I've learned that in harmony with these teachings, I found a way to see the good, in so many others, and not only see it, but recognize, be inspired by it, and even be transformed by it. But within the context of practicing bhakti. So, and now if I get that and I examine this verse and I boil it down and I really try to understand what it really means, and then now I've got something, no facade, just substance here, and now your faith gets stronger. Now your practice gets stronger.
It's getting some type of, whether you're in a sage group, whether you're listening to the Bhagavatam, whether you're in a kirtan, whether someone offers you some prasad, whether you go on a pilgrimage, it's those little sacred times that do something to the heart, that leave an impression in the heart, that when there is a challenge, you can always say, but this was real. Don't let it all go. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Yeah. Don't let it all go. Just go back to those points. And I find it very good. Like, this was real for me. This experience was real for me. And no one can talk me out of that. Yeah. That was a very real thing that happened to me. This was real. This affected me in this way. Because you'll always run into circumstances or people who are unhappy with your choices that are trying to challenge you. They're trying to push you. And they might be even smarter than you or cleverer than you or a better debater than you. But if you keep anchored to, well, this is the way I live. What are you offering? Are you offering a better solution? What's your solution?
That's a great question. Is what's your solution, right? Because what's your solution is such a more difficult question to answer. It requires maturity. It requires thought. As compared to the just like tear down the, whatever it is that you're rebelling against, right?
Yeah.
Which leads me right into like where a lot of this goes for me, is that like for instance, let's say, and I'm, this is so important within the context of like, a spiritual group, right? A spiritual society, right? Where groupthink is definitely a danger,
Sure.
Where we do have the tendency to give up our critical thinking. That's never healthy.
We can't. It's unhealthy.
Yeah,
and sometimes you have, and sometimes, and I've found, and I'm sure you found, sometimes you say, what you're saying is absolutely wrong. I'll stand alone with this if you guys don't agree with me. But what that is absolutely wrong. I think it's important to be able to be firm in your beliefs, even if the whole world is against you.
And even if everybody's saying, but so-and-so just said it, and so-and-so is, we accept their words as being true.
Right.
But that making, let's say in the context of people, sometimes like we place our faith in these people. We see them up on this pedestal, and then they disappoint on some level. And then we swing back with fury. Right, we come back with
That's
rather than a more balanced. If our faith was more real, if it was based on more substance, then we say, what? Okay, maybe that person didn't live up to my hopes, but still, I have to respect that person. So maybe there's a problem that they're creating. Let's talk about the problem, and as you're saying, let's talk about the solution. Right.
Here's another interesting thing.
Tear them down.
Here's another thing that happens when person's getting into bhakti. Some people really struggle with controlling, what they eat. Suppose you really love this philosophy, but you love meat, or, you love a couple glasses of wine a day, or you love a 6-pack of beer with your friends, or you like the philosophy, but you struggle with this. So you're trying it. You're going cold turkey. You're dropping the bud. You're dropping the beer. You're dropping the meat. You're dropping the junk food. You're dropping you're trying to chant. You're trying to wake up early. You used to stay up late. Suppose you're this person who's struggling with their senses, but feels like this is a good thing. And then somebody comes along and say, "Are you crazy, man? Think about it. Everybody's trying to sell you some type of truth. You know how many churches are out there trying to sell you this and that, and we got the only way?" A lot of times, because we want to get out of controlling our senses, it might be like, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. We have a desire to sort of cheat, even though we know controlling what I put in my mouth, regulating my lifestyle, waking up early, meditational. We know those are good things, but because someone has challenged me, I'm using it as an excuse so I don't have to live a more self-controlled life. Be careful of that.
There you go. Careful of that.
Be careful of that. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that was more I think that happened more in the old days when people said, "I'm giving up everything and I'm becoming a monk." And then it becomes like a sort of a rigid lifestyle.
Yeah.
And, for example, we were celibate in your 20s. That was like tough to do. And so you had to really believe in what you were doing in order for you to follow this lifestyle. You have to really no, I fully get why I'm doing this, because you're going against every hormonal urge in your body and what culture is saying is a cool thing. You have to really believe in that. So I think when you choose that extreme lifestyle and then someone challenges you, it's very easy to say, "Oh, okay, yeah, you can find a way out to rationalize your desires."
Sure. And kind of on a flip side, but I think another important point in relation to all this is that it may not be us that's questioning, but it may be someone else, and they're bringing up their questions in our earshot of ourselves, and I think we need to be sensitive not to condemn their independent thought or condemn the process that they need to go through, right? Yeah. Like in other words, when someone starts to speak up and they're sharing this doubt or this fear, and then our response, is like, "Oh, this doubt is not going to help them. Counter it," and maybe even that countering is one. It's like, "Hey, well, okay, well, let's talk about it. Here's why I have faith in that,
Right.
Here's why it makes sense to me, or here's why I'm willing to accept." But we may counter with like, "No, you are wrong, and where you're going isn't healthy, and you shouldn't even be asking that question." That kind of pressure, that kind of response, even if may be very well intentioned, could be exactly what that person doesn't need.
Well, when I bottle up the senses, because there's a lot of we are immersed in bhukti and enjoying the senses of this world. So when I say, "Nope, you can't eat that. Oh, that's got onions in it. Can't eat that. Oh, you didn't, you got to wake up early. It's part of your morning set. You can't do that." If all these, "thou shalt not do these things," sometimes you bottle up and it just pop, right? It's sort of like a fermented something pop, pops out and you're like, I just want to do this. I just want to eat this. I just want to go here. And so I remember coming back. I was living at Gita Nagari, and me and Madan, our good friend Madan Mohan, and he was living in the Brooklyn Temple, and I was living at Gita Nagari, and I was out there isolated on that farm, sort of losing my mind, but controlling my senses, waking up early, doing the necessary stuff. But I came into New York for a festival, and he just looked at my face, and he could see I was struggling. He goes, "Hey, you know what? We're trying it. We're experimenting it. We became," he threw his hands up and he goes, "You know what? We became Hare Krishna monks."
Okay,
we tried it. We're trying it. And I was like, "Oh, that took an edge off it right there."
Right.
And then I burst it out like that fizzy water, like that fermented sauerkraut. I go, "I just want to enjoy my senses." And he goes, very sober way, he goes, "Go ahead. And when you find out how to do it, tell me." It was like
implying that you're not going to find
implying there's no way to actually enjoy the senses because it comes with a whole lowercase what do you call that? Come on, help me.
Pleasure, lowercase.
It comes with a
happiness?
whole terms and conditions.
Okay,
Yeah,
terms and conditions.
terms and
Comes with a
conditions
lot
of
of baggage.
enjoying the material world.
Right.
May cause side effects. Thousands of side effects that happens with indulging in your senses. May plow through people's emotions. It may treat people like things. May
Maybe
make
followed
you
by periods of depression.
yeah, may get you arrested. Whatever it is. May make you suicide. Right. So it's one of these things. It's the classic Raghunath line, think it through. You want to enjoy your senses? Sounds good on paper. Come enjoy your senses. Come on. It's great. Think it through. Think the whole damn thing through. Step by step, where does this take you? When you want to explode like that, I need a cigarette. I need a beer. I need to smoke some pot. I need to pop a pill. Whatever it is, think that whole damn thing through. Okay. Where's it going to take me to? Where am I going to feel afterwards? Who's it going to affect in my life? So yeah, we're popping at the seams, and this lifestyle calls for us to be a little sober, a little thoughtful, a little introspective.
I think that's where the big wave dreams are coming from, Raghunath.
What?
That pent up energy.
Oh yeah.
That's why you're dreaming these waves.
I'm still pent up. It's been almost 4 decades. I'm pent up. I'm ready to blow today.
Mara, do you
I'm gonna plow the driveway.
Mara, do you have any
takeaways? I'm not gonna
takeaways?
plow the driveway. And you're never getting your truck out of there. Think it through. Madame Mohan shows up.
We should get Madame Mohan reading his poetry on the show one day.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get him on Walk-In Wednesday next.
Or maybe like even a Sunday with his poetry. He's got some good stuff.
He's got great stuff.
He's a thinker.
We joined the temple on the same exact day, me and Madame Mohan. And his sister.
Oh, his sister too. Huh?
And Bhakta Paul.
Okay. You all went in together, huh?
And Bhakta Jose. No, it's coincidence. It was like one astrological day where everyone surrenders to Krishna on the same day.
Like intentionally or just happened?
No, I didn't even know him that well.
No kidding.
We became better friends in the ashram.
I used to hang out with him a lot.
Yeah, he was running with your crew there.
Yeah.
Tattoos, fighting.
All that stuff.
Stabbing.
Okay, Mara. Any takeaways today?
All right. Reframe it. It's all a blessing.
There you go.
Bhakti is experience-based and some reasonable faith.
Okay.
There's always time for questions.
There should be, right? There should always be times for questions in a discussion on Sanatan Dharma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that was too long for the coffee mug.
Yes.
That's an important part.
Strike a balance between what's enshrined and what's questioned.
Okay.
Enshrined?
Yeah.
I don't want enshrined on my shirt.
Okay. I won't get you that shirt.
You don't have to wear that shirt, right? Maybe
Boil
other
away.
people.
Would it be great if we actually had shirts for every takeaway we ever did? You come to Super Soul and say, "Oh, I'll take this one. Take this one. I don't remember this one. When was this?" And you put the episode number on it.
Yeah. Boil away the facade to strengthen and stabilize faith.
Okay.
Come on, that was a good one. Don't read the
technical.
chat board.
Sorry, I was reading the chat board saying.
Boil away the facade to strengthen and stabilize faith.
Is that right?
Don't give up discernment.
Don't give it up.
Are you still reading the chat board?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Ever do this where someone writes you a private chat, then someone else writes you a private chat, and you answer someone from the private chat on the wrong person? That's what just happened.
Raghunath, you are the momentum that she's generating by reading this. You're breaking that momentum.
Blame the people who are private messaging me.
Don't take any responsibility.
Take no responsible whatsoever. That's part of the marriage. That's part of the how to have a successful marriage.
That was the
Take
third
no
one.
responsibility whatsoever. Always blame.
Okay.
All right.
Mara?
So don't give up discernment.
Yeah.
Find the honey, not the thorns.
Okay.
That's a good
Interesting.
one.
Find the
That's a
honey,
good
not the
one.
thorns. Okay.
The nectar.
Be inspired by the good in others.
Mm-hmm.
And don't throw out baby Krishna with the bathwater.
Don't throw out sweet baby Krishna with the bathwater. That's a good one. Thank you very much. And speaking of sweet baby Krishna, tonight's the night.
Really?
Good. Oh. Tomorrow night's the night. It's gonna be all right.
Hey, what time are
'Cause
we on
I'll be-
tomorrow?
6 a.m.
6 a.m. Really? 6 a.m. tomorrow.
All right.
Tomorrow
Okay.
night's the night. It's gonna be all right. 'Cause I'll be reading sweet baby Krishna stories to our Patreon members.